Hi everyone. I'm in the process of painting a womb yantra right now for the purpose of releasing a lot of negative emotions and feelings related to the cult of Baal, related to the Epstein network, related to the House of Windsor. And I thought I might just speak out loud while I continue painting to describe a little bit of my standpoint regarding the House of Windsor's crimes. We have a page on the website now that outlines some of what we know regarding Charles, Andrew, and I think we'll be adding some information about the Duke of Kent also and his participation in the Grand Lodge of Britain. And, I want to start by saying my study of the House of Windsor was prompted by this larger cult of Baal, dark magic dissolution process, and also seeing through Meghan Markle's lies and seeing the role that she has played in the infiltration of the British monarchy and the subjugation and capture of Prince Harry through the psychological operation that played out. And one thing that has come to light for me is what we can start to see as some pretty egregious satanic activity within the House of Windsor. And some people may be familiar with Masonic history and Masonic lore, and the Duke of Kent and Charles are members of the Masonic Lodge. There's actually a specific lodge, I'm forgetting the name of it, but the Mulberry Lodge, maybe, a specific lodge just for employees of the royal house. So when you're done working for the royal house and you need a place to go to continue practicing your Masonic dark magic and initiatory practices and ritual practices, well, they've got you covered. They can keep it in the family. And so a Masonic activity for a long time, partially because a lot of it was hidden, was thought to be this, upstanding gentleman's club where men of society would gather and learn about the secrets of life and support the upliftment of communities, etc., blah, blah, blah. Well, actually, there's some darker secrets there. And actually, the closer you get to the top, the closer you get to that 33 degree of initiation, which in Masonic culture is an inversion of the 33 degrees of ascension that Jesus went through. When Masons get to that 33 degree, and sometimes before, there's usually satanic ritual involved. There's usually ritual sacrifice. And when we say ritual sacrifice, that's murder. That's literal murder. That's not like, making an offering to nature with some like herbs or something, right? Like in shamanic practice, that might be a sacrifice that we offer, nature, the universe, the mother, as an honoring of life or something, or the symbolic giving up of something, and for the greater good. And yet in Masonic practice, sacrifice usually involves murder. And so I think it's very important that we understand that, and that we understand that these beings that are practicing Masonic initiatory culture and are actively progressing in their initiation through that organization, they are gaining access to certain levels of wisdom and information about the mechanics of existence. But they're also working their way up the ladder to a place where they now are wielding a certain type of power in creation because of their ability, their willingness to sacrifice and murder. And in some cases, satanic cultures, groups, families, etc., also engage in ritual abuse, not just the murder component, but like actual satanic abuse. We have a lot of information from various survivors of various families, organizations, etc., that describe the nature of that abuse, and it's horrific. There's a certain group of people on this planet that have been able to enact horrors against other people because they have an inverted God complex. And, you know, what I've started to understand related to the House of Windsor is that by both just being satanic in nature, a satanic family, you might have seen Kate's role playing of the Rosemary's Baby woman in that horror movie where she dressed in the red dress with the white lace collar. And in that movie, this woman is impregnated by a satanic cult to give birth to the Antichrist. These satanic families, groups, etc., they also like to display what they're doing in that sort of symbolic way. It's part of their ritual. And so as I've started to see these things unfolding in the House of Windsor, including Andrew and the family's connection to the Epstein ring, it's become clear to me that this family, Charles, the Duke of Kent, Andrew specifically, Will has been initiated and indoctrinated, so that's really unfortunate. And I do believe Will is meant to be a good soul. I bless any healing that is possible for him, any rehabilitation that is possible for him. But his family, that family, and Will has participated in this also, they have defiled a house of God. They have defiled what is meant to be a sanctified institution. Royal institutions on this planet were first developed, enacted, established for the purpose of divine leadership, not rulership, but leadership, stewardship of creation, stewardship of good for all, supporting the upliftment of all, supporting the thriving of all, providing a type of leadership that is aligned with source virtue, that allows for that proper distribution of good, that proper operation of harmony in a larger kingdom, whatever that kingdom is. And so there's a lot of different ways that leadership can show up in this world. But in our dark ages, over the last few thousand years, dark leadership has risen, and leadership specifically that has been about power and control over others, and that has been about hiding a lot of darkness in the shadows. And when people have to engage in those sorts of practices to gain power, that tells me your power is not of God. That tells me your power is coming from an entity. That power is coming from a negative force that is not of the one true source. So the Windsors have defiled the royal institution. They have defiled a house of God. They have defiled an institution that was meant to serve the greater good of Britain and this world, and that was meant to uphold the virtues of source, of God. All royal institutions, all royal families on this planet, for the most part, were established for that purpose. But we've also had dark forces operating on this planet. We've also had forces that want to rule, that want to subjugate humanity. So royal leadership is not about the subjugation of others. It is about providing divine direction. It is about providing a type of stewardship that allows for the upliftment and betterment of all on this planet, and that demonstrates a true godly way of living, being, and engaging with creation, rather than the satanic approach, which ultimately leads to death, destruction, and harm. And so when any being needs to engage in murder, abuse, harm, torture, harm to children, for the purpose of retaining the power that they think they have, we have a major satanic problem. We have a major inversion on this planet. And so it's been really alarming to me to see how this institution has been defiled. And it's basically been under satanic rule since like the 1700s. It's like basically since the time of Albert and Victoria, basically since Buckingham Palace got built, the royal institution has been under the control of Satanists. And that's alarming. I've got some questions about what might be under Buckingham Palace as well. I would like to see an investigation. I would also like to see an investigation into that royal employee only Masonic lodge as well. If you have to keep your initiatory practices and rituals in the dark, that tells me you've got something to hide, don't you? Are those actually practices of God, or are those crimes? Because I don't want to see criminals in a house of God. I don't want to see criminals walking into a church that is dedicated to Jesus Christ. And so it can be quite a horrific thing to wake up to these truths and to understand that people that the public has wanted to admire, have wanted to honor, have wanted to look up to, are actually enacting these sorts of things in private. Because we should be able to look up to our leaders. We should be able not to put them on pedestals, but to see them as an example of divine leadership, to see them as an example of doing good for all in this world and upholding a type of voice publicly that also speaks to the greater good and the elimination of evil on this planet, and that works actively for justice. You know, when Charles visited the United States recently and spent some time with his friend, his pedophile friend, Donald Trump. He's had a lot of pedophile friends, by the way. Jimmy Savile's one of them. I don't think he's living on this planet anymore, thank God. But, you know, it's a little alarming when you start to see these senior members of the royal family hanging out with known pedophiles. What does that tell us about who they are? So when Charles was in the United States recently, you know, it was very telling that he chose not to meet with victims of the Epstein crimes. Why was that? He chose to spend time with Donald Trump instead. A known pedophile, sex offender, felon, and someone who has been mentioned almost more than anyone else in the Epstein files, and one who has had horrific allegations of abuse and crimes against children come to him, and who has been protected by his buddies in the Epstein network, but who has been used as a puppet, just like Charles, Satan Puppet King. That's right, that's what I said. I called him a Satan Puppet King. Hanging out with his buddy Trump, a wannabe Satan Puppet King. Oh, God. You know, it's wild. It's wild to see what has happened. And it's disgusting. It's disgusting to see that these people have dedicated their lives to a power that is quite evil, and to a power that is not of God, to a power that is not of love. And it's alarming that these people have fallen into that belief system and that mindset, and that they truly believe that their power is meant to be expressed in that sort of way, or that they continue to gain